Hello everyone! I know this video is, again, not what I usually do, but I think it's what I'm going to be doing more often. See, I'm now going to follow a pattern where I make a D&D video before I make my 2 Hyperlight Drifter videos for the day, due to the overnight success of my, my story/rant video yesterday. And so I decided to follow that format to continue creating D&D content and Hyperlight content. Well, Heart Machine content, because I'm going to get around to their other games soon. So, welcome to how I make my D&D campaigns harder. I'm going to list to you guys 5 ways I make my D&D campaigns harder, and, you know, they're simple. I'm not going to give you all of my ways of doing it, because a lot more are a lot more complicated and will require their own videos, but I'll give you 5 simple ways, because I think it's the most applicable. I think people will find them the most easy to replicate, and that is why I'm going to be doing that. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome. First step is always the simplest, and this step also pisses off the most people. Now, I don't hate my players. I like to think of them the same way a lot of people think about Satanism. See, you have to walk through the 7 gates of hell to come out as a better person. And I believe that through the funness of the campaign, because I like to make my campaigns fun, I also like to make them hard, because then it feels more rewarding. And one of those ways to make them hard is making your enemies regenerative. Now, what the fuck does that mean? Well, this can mean several different things, but I'm going to go over my favorite ways of doing it. When in early game, players will have low health and not a lot of stuff to do. Melee characters will not have a lot of stuff to do. Magic characters will be fine. But the thing is that their resources are limited. So I don't want enemies to regenerate health yet, because the players themselves don't have health. My favorite thing to do is to give enemies spell slots, the same way players have spell slots, but their spell slots work differently. See, every enemy I create, because I don't use official D&D stat blocks, I always make my own. I always give them a certain limit to the stuff they use, and they have to either take a turn to recharge one of those abilities, or recharge by attacking a player. Now, the reason why this works is because after they only have like 3 charges, so they can only use their, like, I guess, quote-unquote special attacks, only those 3 charges, and have to take a turn, so that way they can recharge as well. How this makes it hard is that the players will have to find a way to get openings into attacks when they're recharging. The reason why that works is because the abilities that I make can vary. For example, one monster might have the ability to add a couple points to its armor class, which means the players can only attack it when it's in a vulnerable state. This makes it more difficult because it makes the encounter last longer, but make it more interesting. You can also make a variety. So for example, the enemy will start out with 3 spell slots. Okay, you follow me? And they have 2 different special attacks, or special moves, whatever you call them. One of them is to give themselves more armor class points, and the other one is a special damage type. However, they don't have separate spell slots. They have to use the ones that they are given. So they can only use one of the 2 every turn. This makes it where player coordination will mean a lot more, and a lot more teamwork will be required, a lot more planning, and I guess strategy will be required towards the fight. Now later on, you can give them regenerative health and use the same system. So for example, if you again have the 3 spell slots and they have 3 special moves, okay? The first one is to give themselves armor class points, the second one is a special damage type, the third one is to regenerate health. This way, it makes the fight more fair for magic characters, well, and melee characters if you think about it, because melee characters have grit points as well. It makes it fair for everybody, because they have to contend with an enemy that fights almost exactly like them. Now, of course, they have the enemy will have its own actions, its own, variety, its own set of actions, its own, abilities and stuff. But its special abilities are where they shine the most. So it will be difficult, but it will be strategized. Now, why would that be hard? They're asking, why would that, because if you're giving them the opportunity, why would that matter? Well, you see, the thing is how powerful these special moves are. For example, the players are fighting something for the first time, and it has a defense ability, like I said, extra armor points. The problem? It adds a shit ton of armor points, but it can't attack. Later you can mix and match to where it can't attack, etc. So players will have to find a way around that. Now while they're trying to figure that out, another enemy is coming in with its own ability where it does special damage types. Now these special damage types are always balanced towards the players. I want to make sure everyone has fun. So for example, if the party mostly has like 6 health points, 7 health points, then the special attack will be 2d6 of a rare damage type like psychic or necrotic. That way they're always on their feet and they're always not prepared, but prepared for what's going to happen. So they'll have ways of defending themselves and cooperating, because that's something I notice a lot with my players, is that sometimes they like to have main character syndrome and they don't like to work together, and I'm not a big fan of that personally. So I like to make it where they have to work together and they have to have character development while in the encounters, which makes it more difficult because of the coordination, but it also makes it more fun because it adds flavor to your fights. Again, you can make whatever ability you want. I don't use any official stat blocks. If you don't want to, that's fine with you as well. But you can mix and match however you want and suited based on your party. And it will make it hard, but it will make it fun. That's the most important thing. Now, moving on to the next part. Now, this next part might sound a little silly, but summoning makes it a lot more difficult and a lot more ridiculous, if you will. See, when an enemy is in danger and they have the ability and spell slots to do so, I like to introduce an ability where they can summon another creature the exact same type, but it has half health of what it normally does. Now you might be wondering, what the fuck does that mean? So, a medium aberration is on low health. It has one of its spell slots left. So, it uses it to summon another aberration that has half the health of its normal type to help it fight the last bit it can. The only downside? The summon can't summon. But the creature that summoned it can summon more if it recharges, but it can only use it when its health is low. This extends encounters, and also makes it a lot more fucking difficult. Why is that? You might be wondering, why is that? Well, because, I don't know if you ever played Dark Souls 2, but a lot of the fights in that are adds and, summoning and all that shit. You might have a team of players, but they're going to feel not overwhelmed. They're going to feel, like they're fighting a war, pretty much, against literally anything that has this ability. It'll feel like it is an enemy D&D campaign. So like, how do I explain this? Okay, so let's say that the summoning creature, the creature that summons things, is the dungeon master of the things it summons. It feels like that. It feels like an evil version of the party almost. Because again, a lot of my enemies will have the same abilities that the players do. So you might be wondering, well, that sounds overwhelming, and it is at first. I will admit, there are flaws in my systems, but they work nonetheless. And they always catch people by surprise. I love catch people by surprise. I love plot twists. You're going to find that out later. That's my... number 5 is my favorite trick. But having this will add a lot more variety and a lot more chaos to the campaign if you need more. Now, if you don't need more, you should do it anyway, because... come on, live a little. Add 300 aberration. No, don't add 300 aberrations, but you know what I mean. You can only summon 1 per spell slot, that sort of thing. And it adds a lot more variety. I said that already. Did I say that already? I said that already. I'm just going to move on before I... you understand what I'm saying. I think you understand. You heard that right. You heard that right. Gaslighting. Allow me to paint a picture for a second. H.P. Lovecraft was scared of everything. Literally everything. To the point that he would describe day-to-day life as like these most eldritch, unspeakable things. Like, he would pour ketchup on a hot dog, like, "Oh yes, the unknown cadath of this red, viscous liquid pours upon my sausage." That sort of stuff. See, the best way to make your campaign harder is to fuck with your players. And what better way to do it than taking the H.P. Lovecraft approach? No, do not name your black tabaxi that word. That is bad. What you should do is, as a dungeon master, you should try to make it seem like there's more to everything when there really isn't. It will confuse, shock, and perplex your players, but it'll also make it more memorable because, again, you sound like H.P. Lovecraft. And who doesn't love a good racist? I'm joking, obviously. But still. So here's a good example, okay? Let's say, the best example, actually, is the door. As you know, D&D players have a common natural enemy. Out there in the wildlife, you see a natural D&D player in its natural habitat approaching its greatest predator. A door. That's not even a joke. See, what you can do is you can describe an unlocked and open door as like the most unspeakable thing imaginable. Make them think that going through that door is going to hell. You understand what I'm saying? But really, it's just you describing what the torchlight looks on the other side. This might sound ridiculous, but this will catch your players off guard. No matter how much you do it, they're gonna second guess everything they do. And who doesn't love a good masochist? So, yep, that's that. That's literally all it takes. These parts are flying by, but literally that's all you have to do. Just describe things as ridiculously as possible. That's it. Now, I completely understand that this next part might be a little difficult for some people, especially some dungeon masters. I know a lot of people get tongue-tied and caught by surprise by some players, and I understand. I completely get that. But I'm giving my ways of doing it, and I don't suffer from that. So, I'm fucking with you, but I'm gonna try explaining this as simply as possible so you understand. Like, this is a method I do. This method comes easy to me, but it's not gonna come easy to everybody. So don't feel bad if you fuck it up the first couple times. What you should do is make every NPC, major or not, and if you have to come up with it on the spot, just do your best. But I'm talking like major, okay? Like villains, memorable characters, that sort of stuff. Make them as complex as you can. One of my favorite things, I saw this from a YouTube short, and I kind of just took it from my own. I'm gonna be honest with you, this idea came from a YouTube short, but I liked it a lot, so I used it anyway. A pilgrim who moved into like a village, and players kept coming in to steal their stuff into their house, so they would kill the adventurer and take everything they had, and then more adventurers would come back for the loot. So they'd kill those adventurers, and then they would keep coming and coming, so they had to build up defenses around their house, hire like enemies to work for them, get all this power and all this privilege, and build up their home till eventually it was a dungeon. And they gained such a hatred for adventurers that they waged war on adventurers for years. That kind of character complex, and that's a character complex I'm going to be using a lot more, is very interesting. It connects with your players a lot. So adding just a little bit of flavor and a little bit of deep, attachable story to your own, sort of setting will do wonders for your players and for your NPCs and for their memory of the campaign. It's always a fun time whenever you do that sort of stuff. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm moving. I'm trying to move away from this woolly-ass spider. I don't like it very much. Having some kind of, a memorability or just adding more flavor to your NPCs will make it harder. And how does that make it harder? Because it makes players hard to move on from it. Let me put it like this. You have a very sympathetic villain, a very well-written sympathetic villain. Players are going to feel bad for killing them, especially if their own morals are much better than theirs. Even if it's the most chaotic murder hobo, you can move them. If you create an enemy that is just as murder hobo as them, and just as strong, I mind you, yet also has a lot more morals. It makes it difficult because of the psychology of people getting attached to these characters that you make. It makes it more difficult because killing such a thing or moving on from such a thing will be hard to do. And the loss of a friendly NPC who had just as much complexity will affect your players a lot more, especially if they get attached to them, or something happens to them that's unfortunate. And therefore, that's what makes that part hard. But the next part I have used in all... I'm gonna kill that fucking spider. Hold on a second. The next part I have used in all of my settings. Where's the broom? Where's the broom? Where's the head? Where is it? Okay, get this fucker. Anyways, the next part you can use in any setting. You can use in any adventure, and you can use in any situation, and it will always be interesting. I'm gonna explain the best time to do it. Just give me a second. You son of a bitch. Come here, fucker. Come here, fucker! You son of a bitch! Die! I think I got him. I think I got him. Where the fuck you go? I'm gonna spear him. I'm gonna use the hard end of the broom. Come here, you fucker! You're going back to Farloom. Where'd he go? Oh no. I'm gonna keep this broom nearby. Okay. What I was saying was you can use this in any situation, but before we go into the next part, I'm gonna explain the best time to use this. Let's say you have several arcs in your campaign. You have the rise in action, the climax, and the fall in action. There's always a flat time in between for players to have downtime, to relax, and enjoy a peaceful part of the setting. That is okay, but if it stretches on for too long, your campaign might be boring, and you might be working on another villain in another arc that will come later. The way you can avoid this long period is by interjecting my favorite trick in the fucking book. You can change them to however you like dependent on your setting, and it will always work because these characters are so well made and it works so well. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the best way to expand your D&D campaign and to truly trick your players and to make the campaign hard is by adding the fucking Enclave. No, I'm serious. This works. And I'm going to tell you why this works. See, Fallout is a very, very popular setting, even in D&D. Hell, if you look at some of the D&D fan settings, Fallout is one of the most expanded upon. And it will always catch your players off guard, because no one expects the Enclave. Now, why does this work in every setting? Well, I've used this in several settings, and though I prefer sci-fi more than fantasy, I can change them to however I feel like. Now, I should state what type of Enclave. I'm talking about the Enclave as a whole. The peak of every individual's power all in one group. I'm talking the Appalachian Enclave before it fell apart. Frank Horrigan, the peak of Washington's Enclave. All of them as one autonomous group. This gives players a set enemy to go after, a familiar enemy to go after, and adds a bunch of variety of tools, weapons, and things that they can get. As a matter of fact, in one campaign I ran, they actually managed to join the Enclave, which is, before you ask how, they rolled a fuck ton of d20s to do it. It was like watching the hand of God. So, how does this work? First of all, it makes it harder because all D&D players will tell you that the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, apparently none of them have ever encountered automatic weapons, and that's why that works. You can give the enemies automatic weapons. You can give them power armor and change the power armor to see how you see fit. And it gives them a bunch of fucking BBGs to go... Not BBGs? That's Baby Girl. BBEGs? Whatever they're called. The Big Bad. We'll call them that. It gives you several of them to go after. I'm talking about the Colonel from Fallout 3, Frank Horrigan. You can change them to however you see fit. My favorite trick is turning the Colonel into a kobold and turning Frank Horrigan into an orc. And the best way you can make the power armor work is by changing it based on the setting. So if it's fantasy setting, you could say it is magical armor powered by geomancy, which isn't wrong. Uranium is a rock, and it would still work, and it would be a heavy armor. I'm going off topic. What I'm trying to say is this would make it difficult and expand on it and give you plenty of time to work on something greater because it's something really fun. There is not a single person on this planet who thinks the Enclave is not fun. They're really cool villains, and they're really cool to go up against. My favorite trick is by turning Modus from Fallout 76 into a patron, a warlock patron. Turning Frank Horrigan into a chained-up barbarian that they only release on their worst of circumstances. And, of course, the Colonel. Who could forget the Colonel and the President? So, this trick will always work. I have done this to 17 different groups. Not only did none of them expect it, none of them saw it coming, but they had a great time fighting them, no matter how difficult it was. Because, again, the whole point of introducing the Enclave is to make something far greater than the players that they have to adapt to. They have to invent new strategies or I don't know, be torn apart by automatic plasma weapons. This is fucking amazing, okay? So literally that's my final and best trick. If you want to make your campaign hard, just introduce the Enclave. That's not even me fucking with you. Watch your players like scramble to figure out what the fuck is going on when through another planar dimension, the Enclave, the actual fucking Enclave just shows up. What do you do in that situation? What do? You freak the fuck out and then you figure it out. So those are my 5 best tricks, but if you can just do the 5th one, your players will never see it coming. I shit you not. You can change the names, you can change anything, but if you keep the premise of the Enclave, they'll have no idea what the fuck to do. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my top 5 ways you can make your campaigns harder and more interesting. I should have put "and more interesting" in the title, but too late for that, so thank you for watching. Thank you.